How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Gori, Cuddly Carnage review. My name is Liban, and helping me break down what is essentially a bit of a wacky game is Dan. How's it going, Dan?
It's all good. It's all good. Thank you for having me today.
No, thank you for joining me, Dan. So this is just another one of those initiatives where we are trying to do more collaborations on the channel. And Dan, he is essentially a review master. Please do, of course, check out his channel links and such, which I will put all in the description below. But just to, before we really get into it, Dan, why don't you, as it is the first time you're on the channel, introduce yourself and the kind of cool content that I know you make.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Dan, and my channel is Dan's Distillery, where I review all types of games, really, a variety of games. So from AAA to indie titles.
Yeah.
And I love gaming, so put platformer, puzzler, racing, fighting, whatever it is, I'll review it. So I've got that on the channel. I do some movie reviews as well, some TV reviews. So yeah, if you like anything geeky, I say, it's over on the channel, and I'll be talking about it.
Make sure you guys go check out Dan's content. It's actually really, really good, well put together, well thought out. Before we go into the actual review portion itself, let's talk a little bit about our time with Gori. I think, and I don't know about you, Dan, but I think it's been a long time since I've actually seen so much of a game over a certain span of time. I'll just say almost a year in advance before its release. The first time I played it was at WASD or WASD, or however you wish to pronounce it. So when it initially came around, what were your general thoughts of what even is this game that's happening here?
Yeah, so I think, so I saw it at WASD as well the first time. And I think the first thing that sort of caught my attention was just like the bright neon colors.
Very visual.
And then you had, yeah, exactly. And then you had this cat with a skateboard. Like, I didn't even know what it was at first. I just knew there was a cat and there was unicorns being torn to pieces.
Absolutely.
In this like bright neon colored game. So yeah, I was just like, yeah, I want to try this because it looks pretty interesting. That was my first thoughts on it.
Awesome. I mean, it is definitely one of those rare instances where we saw the game in almost multiple stages. First that was, later on during previews. After that, where we also went to the cat cafe as well, which that was pretty interesting in its own right. And now finally at release. So now that we're here, Dan, finally, Gori came out just a few weeks ago. Game's still pretty fresh in a lot of people's minds. What is your review on this, and how much of the game have you played, and what medal score would you give it?
Okay, so I've completed the game. I played it on the Nintendo Switch, so it might be a slight difference of
depending on the tech, right?
Yeah. So it's like I know, for example, the textures aren't as clear on the Switch version, especially in like sort of high density areas. Like if there's lots of enemies, like bullets flying about, then it does tend to get a bit fuzzy, so that could sort of take things down a bit. But I do think the game itself is a very sort of a visually demanding game anyway. So I played it on Steam at WASD, and I thought it looked beautiful. I saw it at the Cat Cafe as well, being played on Steam. Again, looks really good. And I think the Switch version looks really good as well. As I said, it does have those sort of fuzzy textures here and there, but it held up quite well.
Yeah,
I enjoyed my time with the game. If I was to give it a score or a medal rating, I would probably say a gold.
Okay.
Just because I played it on the Switch as well, so I would just take some scores down just because of the textures and things like that. But yeah, I think apart from that, I have a few other issues as well. I don't know if you want me to go into that right now, but yeah, that's what I'd give it. A gold review for me.
A gold. All right, a gold for Gori from Dan. Okay, no, we'll definitely get into that in just a moment. So for me, I've gotten about 70 to 75% through the game. As a score to begin with, I would also give it a gold. I played on the PlayStation 5 when we did obviously get a chance to preview it at the Cat Cafe. I did try it on everything as well, including the Nintendo Switch, which I felt at the time actually ran pretty well itself. Of course, as I played on a PlayStation 5, the textures are a lot clearer, the game runs a lot smoother. I would say that obviously with the game itself, it can get to a certain point a bit repetitive overall. Some levels obviously feel like you're kind of doing the same things along the way. Visually, absolutely pops. Love how sharp the colors, how vibrant the colors are overall. Gori as a Gori the cat, very interesting character. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting when they were concepting that, saying that, yeah, we're gonna do this, and obviously you have the skateboard as well and the abilities you're able to use. But it generally reminds me of your kind of PS2, PS3 era games where it's just pure fun, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's not really something you have to think about. Just press some buttons, do a lot of cool moves. Especially back in those days when things weren't censored as much. I feel like Gori does bring a lot of that out right now.
Yeah.
So I would definitely give that a gold. The reason I wouldn't give it any higher is I did come across a few bugs that kind of stopped me from moving forward. Nothing game breaking, of course. I can, of course, at this moment in time, still continue on with the game and such. But things like where I couldn't go through a level, I had to restart like a couple of times, or Gori for some reason falling through the world as such. Early bugs I would kind of expect with releases nowadays, but nothing that kind of hampered my overall experience. So for a game that has a mashup of so many different ideas, definitely a goal for me as well. I am really pleased with Gori overall. We got a cat and a skateboard, Dan. How did you find the gameplay of Gori itself?
So the gameplay, it took a little getting used to. I won't lie. At first, I'm not sure how you felt with it, but it felt a bit floaty. His movements.
Yes.
Which at the beginning wasn't too bad. So you sort of learn how to like grind on the rails. You do the sort of grind on the, what would you call them, like the neon signs.
The neon signs
as well. Yeah. And at first it's quite easy to sort of get to grips. Well, not easy, but you get to grips with it quite quickly. And then also like attacking the enemies. I think later on in the game is when it brings slight problems. So when you've got to, for example, you're fighting loads of enemies, and there's like rails around you, and you've got to sort of skate on the rails while dodging enemy fire and doing all this stuff. The controls just get really fiddly.
Right.
And I think if you're sort of, there's a level in particular where you're sort of going straight down the screen, and you've got like, I think it's like ooze coming from behind
the giant slime. Yes.
Yeah. And the amount of times I died on that level because I kept dropping, like I couldn't judge my jump properly. Maybe it was just a skill issue, I don't know. But I couldn't judge the jumps properly, and I kept dying, and it just frustrated me quite a bit. And I felt like it was partly because of like the floaty controls, and just not being able to judge where you're going to land properly or land on the railings and things like that. And you can press the R button when you're on the railings to like it sort of does like an auto lock and locks onto it. But then sometimes it was just, you're just too far away from it. So yeah, I think at the beginning controls are okay, getting used to them, and then as it went on, it got a bit fiddly.
It's funny you mentioned the floaty controls because I did have essentially the same kind of issue with that. And it's actually funny you mentioned the slime level for that, because you do have these platforms, and obviously the game is kind of egging you on to go very fast because you need to get away from this oncoming slime that's trying to get you. But of course, because Gori in the air feels almost weightless in a way, you do find yourself kind of over jumping. The way the kind of controls work, which is what I mentioned earlier in regards to it feeling like one of those PS2, PS3 era games, is that even in mid-air, even if you do feel like you overjump, you can kind of backtrack a little bit. But I would have at the same time liked that to be a whole lot tighter. When it comes to the onslaught of enemies, obviously Gori has quite a lot of tools at hand in order to take them on. Just obviously give a little bit of insight for everyone else. So this game, the majority of the enemies are unicorns. They're essentially unicorns that have gone completely out of their mind. Not something I was expecting whatsoever. And you'll be using your sentient AI skateboard. Can I even call it a skateboard? It's a hoverboard. An AI hoverboard, yeah. To essentially take these unicorns out. There are, of course, unicorns in the game that are not off their heads either, which you can save as part of side quests that you do once you've done the main mission on the actual hub world. But otherwise, it is the name, as it stated, it gets very gory, attacking those unicorns. But I felt that the actual use of the skateboard and the moves felt pretty good, especially as the progression went in terms of upgrading that. How did you find that part of it in particular?
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the upgrades, getting the new the sort of new abilities. Yeah. And I felt like the more I got, the more it sort of opened up the combat to just doing like new and different things. So I enjoyed that part of the game. It's like, I mean, that's what the game's all about. It's all about causing carnage, isn't it? So that's the best part. That's definitely the best part for me.
Yeah, I would say there were probably moments where I feel like maybe the game overdid the carnage aspect of it. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved shredding up the unicorns. I thought that's absolutely, like, that was a hell of a lot of fun. But because obviously Gori, when you are using Gori's moves, Gori's not exactly unlimited in using certain moves as well. You do have a meter which you do need to fill up to do certain actions, especially some of the more powerful moves that will actually help you clear the unicorns a lot quicker. You can, of course, refill this meter by grinding on the neon signs or on the, I'm going to call them the rainbow rails. That's what they look like to me. Yeah. The rainbow rails, grinding on, you could build them up. But I did find myself at some points felt like there were a bit too many enemies on screen at one time.
Yeah.
I love the chaos, but I thought it was a little bit too out of control. And then once it gets to the point where you have so many enemies coming at you and you aren't able to use your abilities either, it kind of, it doesn't feel as good after the fact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely know what you mean. Yeah.
Gori uses his AI hoverboard pretty much for everything in the combat itself. You also do get these sort of, I'm not even sure how to define them, when you attack one of the unicorns using a certain move and you're able to trigger a cutscene where you like rip its head off.
Like a finishing
like a finishing move.
Yeah.
I thought those were pretty cool, because when you're in that much carnage and you're going against so many of these unicorns, being able to just go next and you're ripping off 10 heads at once, that was pretty cool to me. I really love the look at that. But other than, of course, just hordes of enemies coming at you, I thought something that was actually particularly fun about Gori were the boss battles. I thought the boss battles were pretty great. How did you find those?
Yeah, I enjoyed the boss battles. Sometimes I didn't know what I was doing. Like it takes a little while to sort of figure out what you need to actually do to actually hurt the boss. But yeah, once you get into it, I thought they were very sort of inventive and they were fun. I liked it. I liked doing them. Yeah,
so what I don't know if it's a setting maybe I left on, but if you are idle long enough, and I'm not even saying long, maybe 10 seconds tops, your AI hoverboard will hint roughly at what you need to do. Obviously there's so much happening on screen at once. Maybe it's something that just completely goes over your head. The last thing you're going to want to listen to is your hoverboard telling you how to actually play the game. But there is some hand holding a little bit in the game, but that's only if you feel like you're completely lost. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, especially with a game of this type. Especially whereas if you are going through so much of this carnage and all of a sudden it stops and you don't know what it's doing and it's just quiet, I feel like that kind of breaks the immersion of it overall. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but for those of you who want like complete don't tell me what to do, you're not going to get that fully, but trust me, it's not terrible at all. It's not completely terrible. We briefly spoke on the visuals. Visuals, maybe not next gen visual like, but really the artwork, it pops, the colors, they pop, lots of neon everywhere. How did you find the visual aesthetic of the game itself?
Yeah, like I said, that was the first thing that sort of got my attention for the game. I like the sort of just that sort of like rundown cityscapes. Wherever you are, you just had that sort of rundown feeling, and it gives you that sort of retro game nostalgia. It reminded me, like you said, like a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
It reminded me of games from that era, just with the environments and the way they were sort of presented. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good looking game. And I like the way that they sort of integrate the rainbow railings and the neon signs into the.
I'm pretty sure they're called something else, but yeah,
probably.
Called, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love that sort of. I don't know if it's like cell shading that's like around the characters, like the unicorns.
Slight cell
like
shading.
It's like a certain textured effect. That I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Lollipop Chainsaw in a way. It kind of reminded me of that aesthetic, and while I haven't played that particular game, I did like the way it looked, and that's what kind of Gori brought to the forefront. I tried to think of a way that what else it could have possibly looked like, but I don't think any other kind of art style would have suited the game, especially not a realistic one. Oh god, no. We can't have that. But I think for what they wanted to accomplish from a visual aesthetic, it looked really good. At no point did I see textures tearing or any visual issues, just always popping at all times, which I always appreciated about Gori. Let's speak a little bit about the music and the characters, and maybe a little bit of the dialogue as well. I thought this game was funny as hell, personally. Maybe because I haven't played a game like it in such a long time, but I thought it was absolutely hilarious. FYI, for those of you watching, there is a lot of cursing in this game. There is a lot of absolute cursing, especially early on when you come up against a particular boss that part of it looks like a bear. You will get a lot of cursing from the characters, but not cursing in a way that feels like, oh, this is kind of cringy, but genuinely funny. I thought the soundtrack itself was actually very good, really hyped to tension, especially during battles and boss battles especially. How did you find those aspects of it and the characters as well?
Yeah, so I was very surprised because obviously during the sort of the demo builds, I don't think there was any sort of talking in those games at all.
Not necessarily, no. Anyway. Not that I can recall, no.
So when I first like started it, and then the hoverboard just started swearing, I was just like, whoa, okay, all right then. But I think that because obviously Gori the cat doesn't actually speak, just meows. And I think having the hoverboard there as your sort of companion was actually really good. Like it kept things interesting. Like even though I was saying I found the platforming sections to be a little bit frustrating, having the hoverboard there, maybe cracking a joke, being like, oh, I can't fly, I've just fallen to my death and I can't fly. Having little things like that actually kept things amusing and kept me wanting to keep playing as well. So I think I enjoyed the humor. It might annoy some people, but I love that type of humor. And I think just having that sort of banter between the hoverboard and like some of the enemies as well, it was just great. So I enjoyed that. The music as well, I thought really kept with the vibe of the action, and then just that sort of cyberpunkish, if we can call it that, sort of neon cyberpunk sort of theme. Yeah, the music just fit really well into that thing. So yeah, I think the music and the voice acting were done really well.
So something you actually pointed out, and I never really thought about it like that before. Of course, Gori, the cat itself, doesn't speak, and maybe the hoverboard is kind of Gori's inner voice in a way. Yeah. What Gori actually wants to say, but you're never gonna hear it because all Gori does is meow. But yeah, 100%, I agree with everything you said. they've somehow managed to find a way to make, I would say, 90% of the dialogue that I've come across with some with what I've played so far, just really fun, man. Just really fun to listen to. I wouldn't say engaging, but just comedic. Comedic. Like, you don't really get bored hearing anyone speak in that game overall.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. So now that we've kind of broken down Gori Cuddly Carnage quite a bit, gameplay, characters, soundtrack, are you still going to give it a gold, or are you going to revise your medal? What do you think?
I would give it, I'll still give it a gold. And the reason for that is, I think, we've just touched on the sort of the voice work, the music, the gameplay, sort of the combat, things like that. To me, this game is designed for fun, and
100%.
That's exactly what it gives you. Like, when you play this game, as much as I said certain bits frustrate me, I had a lot of fun with this game. And I think this is the sort of game where you don't need to think about it too much. You just go in, cause some chaos, and just enjoy yourself. And I think it does what it set out to do.
I agree. I would still stick with gold. Obviously, of course, a few problems here and there that I mentioned. Some bugs and maybe an issue or two I had with the moment-to-moment gameplay, but they definitely said, this is what we want to do. We want to be as crazy as possible. Almost nothing was off the table. And I think they accomplished their goal, quite frankly. Yeah. I think they reached it. Going forward now, for Gori, what would you like to see from the game? Maybe as DLC, or is there anything you want to see from the devs going forward to maybe add to the game or make it a better experience overall?
I think perhaps giving a bit more variety in what you do within the levels themselves. I'm not sure how that would look, but I think just having more, because obviously right now it's fighting the unicorns or whatever enemies that are there. It's fighting them and then doing some like platforming, and then fighting more enemies, doing some platforming. There's not really much. Hold on, could you hear that?
Yeah. Sound in the background.
There's not really much in terms of variety, I suppose, in the gameplay. So I don't know if they could like maybe add some more puzzle elements to the game. There is a little bit in there, but maybe adding a little bit more to sort of break things up. I guess if you did that though, then it sort of takes away the sort of fast pace of the game. I think that's what they're trying to keep, that sort of fast-paced action going. But yeah, I don't know. I think having some more variety within the game would be good. How they do that though, I don't know. I think the game is short, and I think that works to its favor, because like you said, by the time you finished it, it doesn't really feel like it's lingered too long. So yeah, I think maybe if they'd made like a sequel, I don't know, maybe mix things up a little bit more. Have some more characters that you can choose from, and maybe have different abilities, things like that. Okay, interesting. What I would like from it, I think just going back to some of the points we mentioned earlier, just tighten up the platforming a little bit more. I would love to see maybe some speed run levels. While there were issues with the whole slime thing, I didn't hate it. I thought it was a cool little addition. Maybe some more of that. If they're able to figure it out, multiplayer I think would be awesome. Even if it's just one other person, being able to do tearing up the whole screen in one other person, I think that would be a lot of fun. A sequel, it's hard to say, because in a way, I feel like the game is pretty self-contained. If they were going to do a sequel, they would need to find a really good angle to do it at. If they tried to do a sequel and kind of just did exactly what they did here, I feel like it would fall pretty flat overall. But if they just improve on this one, I think that could work out pretty well for them.
I think that could work out pretty well. All right, fantastic. That was our Gori Cuddly Carnage review. Lots to think about, lots to break down. Overall, I think we both agree, really great game. Don't skip it. Don't skip it whatsoever. You will not be disappointed. Won't take you too much time to play, and it's not one of those games where you need to invest 2-3 hours at a time. You could jump in for half an hour, do a level, half a level, and then jump right out straight away.
Watch out, don't make any noise.
I'm sure nobody heard that.
The slimy corn.
Gross! Whatever, let's f it up.
So that brings us to the end of the Gori Cuddly Carnage review. Lots to think about, a lot discussed. Do not skip this game. It is very good. We both have given it gold. I think you guys will really enjoy it overall. Dan, once again, thank you so much for joining me. Once more, where can people find you if they want to keep up with you, ask you questions? Where can people find you if they want to talk to you?
I mean, yeah, so I'm on everything really. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, I'm still on Facebook as well, Instagram, TikTok, under Dan's Distillery. So yeah, just look me up, and yeah, you can talk more about gaming.
Perfect. So there will be links in the description for all of Dan's different platforms. Do go down there, hit the follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel here as well. Let me know what you guys thought about Gori Cuddly Carnage. Do you agree with us? Do you think we're talking absolute nonsense? Just let me know down in the comments. I'll read it regardless. Whether I reply to you or not, I don't know, but I will read it in that way. We've both given it gold. Can't wait to see more from Gori, hopefully in the future. Go check out some more videos on the channel. There's plenty of content on here every day, and we'll catch you another time. Peace.